In this episode of Adversity to Strength, I'm joined by Malisa Hepner, a therapist, speaker, and podcast host who knows what it's like to live with the noise of trauma and what it takes to move through it. Melissa combines lived experience with deep professional insight to help people move beyond overthinking, perfectionism, and the fear of being seen. Her work, including her powerful workbooks, Safe to Be Seen and The Beauty of Imperfection, helps people reconnect with themselves and find freedom in authenticity, vulnerability, and self compassion. In our conversation, Melissa opens up about her own journey of healing from complex trauma, the importance of emotional and spiritual hygiene, and how to quiet the inner noise that keeps so many of us feeling stuck. She brings warmth, humor, and real world tools that anyone can use to start feeling more grounded. If you've ever struggled with perfectionism, self do, or the fear of being truly seen, this episode will remind you that healing doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. Melissa, thanks ever so much for taking the time and coming on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolute pleasure. Take us back to the beginning. Where did your journey with all of this start?
Well, I mean, I guess it started with a really chaotic childhood that included like every level of abuse that you can
Yeah.
experience, foster care, narcissistic caregivers. I mean, just like name it, I experienced it. Then my parents were still, I would say, present in our lives, even though after the age of 8, they were not the ones in charge of caring for us. And then my dad died of a morphine overdose when I was 15, and then my mom died when I was 22, and she died from cirrhosis of the liver and complications from Hep C. But ultimately, my adult life, it started, I mean, I met my ex-husband when I was like 18 and a half, moved in immediately, married him at 20, intentionally got pregnant with that first child because to me I was like way grown because everyone in my family had kids as like, 15-year-olds. So I was like, I'm a grown up. I'm doing this the right way. Anyway, I think that's very like it's an overarching theme of I think I know more than I do, and I think
Yeah.
I have my stuff together more than I do. And so at 22, I lost my mom and I'm pregnant with my first kid. I don't really deal with the grief because I'm just determined to be the best mom ever. Not just better than what my parents were, but like I'm going to be the best at this.
Sure.
And I just laugh at that because I don't know how I possibly could have been. But I think for me, really what I was dealing with was the fact that because I never lived my pain out loud the way my siblings that I grew up with did, I thought that all of this complex trauma didn't have an impact on me. So I entered adulthood with that in mind instead of any sort of thought of like, I have to overcome the things I just went through. Because, like, truly, the first 18 years of my life was not like there was no day of peace in that entire 18 years. It was
Yeah.
chaos. And so I think trying so hard to be perfect at mothering and at humaning and all of the things, that's kind of, I just continued to make all the right decisions for all the wrong reasons. Like I was able to put myself through college, do things like that to be successful in accordance to some checklist, but not
Yeah.
necessarily really in tune to the things that I had experienced. And so at 43, a couple years ago, October of 2023, I found myself just in a place of profound darkness and wanted to die. And really, I just had so much noise happening in my head. And, I can in hindsight see what it was. But at the time, I mean, I
Yeah.
thought maybe
Yeah.
I was becoming schizophrenic like my brother, because my self-talk, I'll put that in quotes because it wasn't my self-talk, but that's what I thought it was just so loud and
Yeah.
demeaning and demoralizing. And so that's kind of where it started. Deciding not to die during that time, I thought, well, I mean, I got to do something different. I knew a little bit about trauma by then and like nervous system regulation, but without any idea of why I was so dysregulated, like an
Yeah.
intimate knowing, I had no idea what to do about it. And so it kind of started with like, I'm going to try to be more vulnerable, but I didn't even understand why I was so closed off. I mean, so many things. I'm a mental health professional, right? So, like, so many things theoretically made sense, but I didn't have, again, any intimate understanding of what I was
Yeah.
experiencing. And so, I've spent the last couple of years now growing, healing, evolving, and kind of just now sharing the light that I've gained through that darkness with others.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like you've been through a lot, and that's from what you said, that's guaranteed to give you CPTSD. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm diagnosed with CPTSD, so unfortunately,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that. It's not fun,
Yeah.
and it's with you forever there as well. But I mean, it seems like despite everything, you did well, all things considered, with everything that you had gone through, by the sounds of it, not realizing just how much you had gone through.
Exactly, because again, my outside wasn't matching my insides. On the outside, I'm the life of the party. I am doing everything I can to take care of anyone else other than me. I am funny and jovial and went to college, had great success in careers, things like that. The things that like so many stories whose childhoods look like mine, their adult lives don't look as quote unquote put together as mine did. Again, I made
Yeah.
good decisions. I really did. I mean, I have been divorced and am remarried, but like I didn't I don't want this to sound like I'm shaming anyone who didn't make this decision, but like I didn't choose the type of men that my mother and my grandmother and my great grandmother had married. They were
Yeah.
abusive, they were alcoholic. Things like that. I married quiet, sweet, tender men, and I like truly I was kind of the problem in the relationships. But like I was making the quote unquote right decisions in terms of how, if you're going to create a checklist of things you need to do to be successful, I was doing those things. But on the
Mm.
inside, anytime
Yeah.
someone would compliment me, the overwhelming feeling would be, if you really knew me, you wouldn't be saying that. And so, like, just uncovering all of these layers of shame that
Yeah.
made me feel like I was fundamentally unlovable. And that is a direct correlation to CPTSD.
Yeah, 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 of course. And but it's great that you managed to make good choices despite, because the main area I work in as a therapist is trauma. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not because I thought, oh, I'm going to specialize in this. It's because the majority of my clients who come to me suffer from trauma. And I have to, like, because they feel bad because they've made bad choices in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to explain to them, look, if you went back to the beginning and you had the same set of circumstances, there's every chance you're going to make the same choices as you did. Here's the reason why
Mm-hmm.
you chose that guy. So the fact that, I don't know, did that something about yourself that made you make good choices despite everything? Because the vast majority of people would have made bad choices with everything they've been through. So I wonder what that is that you knew somehow, I need to make better choices, especially with, like, relationship wise, because you could have easily just carried on the cycle. What, I don't know anything different.
Yeah, it's wild. In terms of relationships, I think that really I didn't have any like boyfriends or anything really like in high school. This was the first dude that really gave me any kind of attention. I lost my virginity to him and I had these strict religious upbringing and was like, well, now we got to get married. So in some ways I really
Right.
lucked into that. But but like I could have dated people who were, a different type of person than what I wanted to be. I think a couple of things, honestly. I think one thing is that in childhood, I was very in tune at different times to my highest self, is the way I would say it, because
Right.
I knew what I wanted to do, what I wanted to create that pain into purpose to be my entire life from starting like 4 years old. I wanted to be a helper, felt like I was put on this earth to be a helper. I was going to transmute that. But also, the very human part of me, being raised in foster care, even kinship foster care, we were lucky that we received a lot of really good education about the barriers that we were up against because we were in the system.
Yeah.
And the statistics were stark and striking when they presented them to us. Like this, most people in your circumstance end up like this. We are here to offer you this support to try to not, encounter those things. That and my family of origin, because I was raised primarily by my maternal grandmother, they were a very, very toxic system. And I think a really common denominator in the type of toxic system I had is just the level of criticism that you receive just for being alive. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. And so
Yeah.
I had all these aunts in my life that were just and their children who were I was also very close in age with and spent a lot of time with. They were just very critical is the best way I can frame that. And so they also did a lot of future forecasting according to what they believed I was going to be, and none of it was positive. So I really believe that for 43 years, I operated from a place of spite. Every decision I made was made because I was going to prove somebody wrong or prove myself right. It was never done because it was in tune with my greatest desires. Like there were some decisions, like I worked
Yeah. Yeah.
for hospice forever and whatever, and I did that because I wanted to give myself in that way. But most of the decisions I'm making on the daily were made from a place of spite. And when you experience CPTSD, I think that's common, and I also think
Yeah.
anger is a great motivator. You know what I mean? Like I never got
Uh,
stuck in the spirals at those points in my life that kept me like from accomplishing. Anger just fueled me. I was fueled by that all the time.
I think yeah, because I've had because I've with the CPTSD, anger is something that I've had throughout my life, and not for a long time did I realize just how much it affected me. I
Yeah.
didn't understand why I overreacted at tiny things. Big
Everything,
things
right?
didn't bother me. Big things, not so much. Tiny, insignificant things,
Mm-hmm.
ludicrous things. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how on earth could you get angry over that? It's beyond me. But then, obviously, a lot of therapy, a lot of trauma therapy, and I've still got ongoing for trauma therapy forever. Um, and my therapist has said to me, she said that with the anger, you need to accept it, and you're not accepting it, and you can actually use it for positive as well, but you're using it because you want to seek revenge on the people that wronged you and stuff like that. So she's trying to, over time, she's got me to look at it in a different perspective. But then for a lot of people, you're holding on to, I'm not letting that go. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still, you know, I'm not forgiven, I'm not forgetting, and that anger's there. But yeah, but you're the only one that's suffering from it. Nobody's sitting there going,
Absolutely.
Lee's angry, I'm feeling it too. So it's like, okay, then it
Right.
goes to the sailing of like drinking poison. It is like yeah, anger is like drinking poison and waiting for somebody else to die. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. We need to change this.
Yeah, because I don't think any of the people that I was so fueled by spent even a quarter of the time thinking about me that I did of them my entire life. I mean, I would still be
Exactly.
having fights in my head
Yeah.
with people from childhood or most of my family I haven't had like a close relationship or any contact with for years because for me that was best.
Same.
And yeah, and so but I would find myself still fighting with them in the shower as if I
Yeah. Yeah.
decided to
Yeah.
go visit with them.
Yeah. 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 It's really frustrating there because you never feel that you get the opportunity to say what you feel, what's people's put you through or anything like that, and that can lead to anger there. Because I don't know about yourself, but I have a real problem with injustice, and it could be for anything, you know,
That
massive
was my
problem with
thing too. I
injustice.
fought for justice. Absolutely. It didn't even
Yeah,
matter if I felt like it had a major impact. It needed to be fair.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
me to a T. And, you know, what I what felt the most unjust because I had so many narcissistic people around me. The what felt the most unjust was actually working up the nerve to express the feeling and then being told you're crazy. What? Like you're too
Gaslit, being
sensitive.
gaslit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that is not what happened, or that's not what I
Yeah,
meant. And also just not feeling ownership or the ability to own my
yeah,
experience. Like,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
that's fine if that's not how you felt like you intended it or whatever, but I'm telling you how the impact landed. And so that who negativity bias is so real, and that's what I've learned, how to differentiate between what is real and what is just that, because so many times this has actually been like the latest learning and growing for me is, I'm aware of the protective layers that I've put between myself and literally everyone around me. I don't always see them, but I know they're there. They're like this
yeah,
invisible little force field. So the thing that really, I had myself convinced that I could not speak about my feelings, experiences, anything to anyone else because they were going to undermine them or demean them. And it does happen a lot. I mean, people are pretty unaware of themselves. And so when you confront, they defend. And I get that now. But I had not yet learned that it really is my responsibility to be home within myself, to create the container of safety and to expand that container so that
yeah,
when I do say, like, you're not saying this so that somebody can give you a resolution or even peace about that. It's just about being able to speak what's happening within you whenever an experience happens. And so I really wanted people's response to me to be perfect and to be really meeting every one of my little expectations that I set for the conversation. And if it deviated at all from the way I wanted it to go, all I could hear is this is exactly why I don't tell people, or, nobody ever. And it occurred to me literally like maybe 5 months ago, all of a sudden, like, oh honey, this is your confirmation bias. Like that's not even true. First of all, I don't accept it perfectly when people come to me with communication about how my actions affected them. And so kind of learning how to give myself that grace and compassion helps me to give it to others. And so I kind of had to get to a place where I understand their initial reaction is their ego, and I can allow that. Like, there's room for that. And I'm not talking about the crazy people in my life. I'm talking about normal everyday interactions. But the crazy people in my life really informed all of these conversations. I was shut down from a very early age. So that was my natural assumption, was that any response other than, "Oh my God, you're so perfect and I totally understand why you feel that way and you are seen and you are loved and valued." Anything outside of that was just going to feel exactly the way it felt when I told my
yeah,
caregivers or my, extended family members how their actions impacted me. And so I'm just really still learning that those interactions are impacting my current interactions, and I have to be the one to stay chill and give them that moment after their ego responds to me. And then if I don't react, we can continue on, and I see a lot better results in conversations. And then I'm also a lot more accountable to myself in those conversations than I ever have been. I don't place the blame for how I'm feeling on someone else, because again, I'm not dealing with like narcissists now. I'm dealing with normal everyday
um,
humans, but to me they were a threat to my
your brain,
safety.
of course, your brain's programmed. Your brain's not going to
Mhm.
take a chance. It's fight or flight. It's there to
Oof.
keep you alive. Some
So reactive, so
some
reactive.
innocent bystander that said hello.
Absolutely. No, that's so real. It's so real. I mean, you could be talking to me about generally anything and I'd be like, "Brr," I mean, but that was my greatest source of shame, was that level of reactivity. How every single thing outside of me was a threat to my safety, and
Yeah.
just didn't understand what was happening, what the internal process was and why. Once I figured that out, like, you're not crazy. This is just a thing that happens. It's a byproduct of trauma.
So a couple of questions there. I've got loads, but what was the point that got you to where you thought, do you know what, this just isn't right? Was it when you were feeling like at your lowest, and you went, I've got to change this because everything I've got on internally, my head's spinning. I need to sort this out. Yeah. And what did you
Yeah.
do for that? Was that get therapy?
No, because I have a, this is so embarrassing to say. I'm one of those people that because I thought I was so self-aware because I intellectualized every experience and overanalyzed everything, I didn't think that a therapist could offer me oh, I'm so embarrassed. Anything that I couldn't offer myself.
You
I
get that a
know.
lot as a therapist.
I know. And so like that is the truth. Like and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
also I had a real mistrust in anyone.
Were
So
you
while I
arguing?
was thinking that it was, oh, what's a therapist going to do for me that I can't do for myself as a, therapist. I mean, and I wasn't like an active practicing therapist at the time, but also I just didn't trust people, and
Yeah,
I didn't even know how to even start digging. So what I did is truly I just kind of started slowly moving some pieces. I could see on the outside some real variables that needed to shift, and that would help. I was in a very toxic workplace, quit the job. I wanted to pursue myself in a way that I never had. I started my podcast. Through my podcast, I really did get to meet, and still do on the daily, people who give me information that help me. So what started it though
yeah,
was a gal I interviewed works for a guy named Troy Love in Arizona, and he created something called the Finding Peace Method, and he has a book called the Finding Peace Workbook. And the way he explains it is he just breaks shame down into different archetypes so that you understand how vast shame is. How, like,
yeah,
you being like, self-sabotaging and being like, yeah, you should totally eat the whole dozen donuts. That
yeah,
is an
yeah.
archetype of shame. Like that's not something I would have ever thought of, or what, learning
No.
that helped me understand my patterns of self-sabotage. And so that's a really basic way to say like that was the epiphany. That, and somewhere in there I had a spiritual awakening, and I was I was reflecting on, I was doing an identity audit, and I was reflecting on who I am now, who I want to be, and where the incongruence is. And as I started to evaluate, I was like, okay, but I already am that. I already am that. What am I trying here? Now, and I
Yeah,
had been future self journaling for a while. And everything that I wanted to be in this future self journal was like Zen, completely unbothered, like literally a Buddhist monk type, like where I was just like enlightened and spreading that light. I mean, very illogical, truly. But it was in that moment that I was like, why am I trying so hard to become that when I really like these fiery parts of me? Like, yes, I have got to learn to control my reactivity, but that's not the whole story here. And so, really, like, just starting to accept and be able to hold my fire instead of trying to extinguish it all the time, that was a really big moment for me because I started to realize, like, wait, no, I literally already am. Like, I'm already this person. I just need to be a little less of some things too. But, like, I'm already this person. No, I'm never going to be perpetually unbothered. And I don't think anyone is, unless you are out in the, where those monks live with zero stress. And the only thing they do with their life is meditate and whatever. And I gotta be honest, I don't want that life. I really like my life.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so it was just things like that. The first step was quieting the noise. I had to get rid of the shame, get rid of it, and the
yeah,
overthinking and the perfectionism. The other part of the overthinking was I didn't know how to feel at all. I knew how to
yeah.
intellectualize, I knew how to analyze.
There's your
I did not know
CPTSD
how to
for you.
feel.
There's your
Yeah, exactly.
CPTSD.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah,
was remarkable how many times. I mean, I had to literally, to create those new neural pathways, I had to train myself to check in. If your neck and shoulders and back are in excruciating pain, that's your first sign you're overthinking. For me, like that was, I couldn't even catch myself in the moment of overthinking. I'd have to be like, dang, I'm in so much pain right now. Because this would happen a lot while I was driving. And so I'd
right.
be like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. Oh, I was overthinking. I wouldn't even realize it. And then I'd be like, okay, what were we overthinking about? Oh, okay. Which wound did that hit? Let's feel it and now release it. But it was a whole, I mean, God, that was a month. Like, that was months worth of practice before I got like anywhere near where I am now to be able to get out of my head. But
Yeah,
that was the single most important thing I could have done for myself was to learn to quiet those shame narratives and to stop overthinking, because that's where my entire life was. I mean, I just realized why I was, in the pinnacle of that mental health crisis, really, like I was getting lost walking from my bedroom to the kitchen. My house is not that big, but I was so just off in whatever dissociation,
Yeah,
fighting
yeah,
with someone and
yeah.
whatever. I just wasn't connected to myself at all. And so
No.
learning that presence and mindfulness was really important to me.
Did you how did you feel when you realized that all your anger and everything had gone on had been caused by other people? How did you feel with that? Because we've got the feeling, we're going through it, we know it's there, we don't really know why. Is it just life? Is everyone like that? Maybe it's not. Could it be this? Even though we know most of the answers. But when you sit down and you're talking things through with somebody and you've, whether it's an epiphany or it's explained and you realize where that pain's come from and who's caused it.
Honestly, I think I felt relieved because I think
You
I
had an
felt.
answer?
Do what? Yeah. Yeah. Because before I thought I was just crazy. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
why I wanted to die. I was like, okay, I've given this 43 years. We're done. We're done. Like, this is not going the way we want it to. And you're messing up your kids. Like that's where I was at. And so getting an answer,
Yeah.
I was like, oh, great. Okay, I can fix that. Shoot.
Yeah. I say to clients, my personal opinion, if you, because sometimes you can't always find the answer if it's blocked out and never to return. It is what it is. But a lot of times you can find the actual root cause. You can find what's caused you the pain. My personal opinion, I say it to clients all the time, is that's 80% problem solved. Just knowing where that pain has come from, and that
Mm-hmm.
20%, what we now know, we can work on it. The worst thing is the pain, and you're not knowing where it's coming from. But if you
Yep.
got an answer, then great. And did you feel like almost like a relief that you now
Oh,
knew?
so much relief, especially because my biggest wound is my betrayal wound. And I could recognize really insignificant events triggering that. And I could
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
that this was betrayal, but it felt so stupid to me. I did not understand why something so insignificant would make me feel the greatest level of betrayal. So, what I would do instead of trying to understand that is now shift to I am mad at you and I'm going to pick a fight because I know what to do with that. We can fight, then the whole conversation can become about my behavior. I apologize and now the whole situation's at rest, but I don't really feel any better because the truth is I still feel betrayed and justice was not served. So it was a real perpetual cycle with that neglect and betrayal wounds for me. And so getting the answer of like, oh, this is why I feel this literally every day. And I can take accountability for this now. Like with my husband, I can be like, oh, I'm feeling betrayed. Like he understands I'm not saying you betrayed me, which in my former self, I absolutely meant it like, no, you are
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this to me. And for me now, I just understand this is a wound that was created a long time ago. It's going to open up pretty easily because it's my biggest, gnarliest one. And
Yeah.
so when it does, I can just say, like, that's what's hit right now and no big deal. Like, this is how you can help me right now. Like, don't dismiss me. Don't don't tell me like that my feelings are stupid because that was the previous conversation is like what I betrayed you, like because I'm sure I wasn't using that word, but I was putting a lot of blame on him, and he's over here like, I am so confused. So, what he does is dismiss me like everybody has my entire life. And so
Yeah.
now, when I'm saying it, he can offer a level of reassurance in that moment. Like, well, is there a way I could discuss this differently? Or, is there something else that you need to say? Whatever, to hold me in that moment. But ultimately, the betrayal is mine. I can own that now. You didn't mean to. That's not what was happening here, but it's been hit. It's opened up. I have to talk about it, and then how we move forward is so much smoother than me starting a fight.
How did you feel when you first were actually able to own it, actually take control of it?
Of just very empowered. Like I think victim consciousness is really integral in this work, and to learn that I mean, I could spot a narcissist or the traits because I had so many of them myself.
Once you know what to look for, they
Yeah.
light up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, but I mean, I sure didn't see all those traits in myself until I started to see like, oh wow, my
Yeah.
ego is really front and center, you know? And so yeah, I felt really empowered to just make the shift. I will say probably my current struggle in that empowerment is to not take on too much accountability to where I can feel like, oh, I can process this on my own and still never have to talk about it, you know? So like I'm still learning how to actually connect with someone else when these things are happening instead of like, oh, it's my responsibility, so I'm going to deal with it because that's like I really find most of the protective layers I have left are between me and my spouse, and so I
He's the
have to be
nearest
very
one to you.
careful. Yeah, yeah. And so I have to be very careful to not over take responsibility or accountability because then I take away the connection point because that's what I'm trying to avoid is the vulnerability, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's difficult when it's with like partners and spouses there as well because they're the ones that get it the most.
Oh,
Um,
the very most. Woo.
and the problem is when it's like anger or an overreaction, you end up in like you can end up in an argument and you're there having an argument. You're like, I don't even know how I even got to this point. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, which is almost like having an argument with a narcissist. Never have an argument with a narcissist because you don't even know what you're arguing about. But when
Yep.
it's a reaction, that's when you're like, going, hold on a minute, and it because it's fight or flight response. It does take time, and I'll explain it to clients. And for myself, I'm always working. I've been working on it for years. I'm better, but there's always room for improvement there as well. And it's certain things in like tones. If there's like somebody speaks to me,
Yes.
like my mum is just a complete scumbag, not fit to be called a mother, and she's not well to do in a million years. But when she wanted to like tell me off, she would start using better grammar. So it's really condescending. So I've had it
Yes.
where I've like when somebody spoke to me that might be quite well spoken, they used the same words, and
Yes.
you know what I'm going to say, and I've reacted in that way. They haven't done anything wrong, and like, what's with the
Yeah.
overreaction? But obviously you triggered because it relates to her. So it's like now it's like right, take a breath. Now, is this the same set of circumstances and surroundings? Or, does that person mean it like this? Maybe count to 10, have a think about it before you reaction. And even just doing that takes time, but, a
Yes.
work in
Well, and
progress.
sometimes, if you get escalated really fast, sometimes there's that split second where your brain goes, make a better choice, and then the other part of you goes, I don't care. And
Yeah.
you know what I
Oh,
mean? Like,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
feel
because
yourself.
that is honestly why like I try to set my life up in a way that is not chaotic, that I can be
Yes.
very present and mindful, don't overschedule, don't overextend myself in any way, don't be in a hurry, be very present and mindful so that I can gain a little more control over some of that reactivity because I can get there fast, especially like I wake up not feeling well, and then maybe if I don't eat for the better part of the day, ooh,
Yeah.
by a certain time in the afternoon, mama's grumpy and very reactive, very, very reactive. My nervous system loves for me to not eat so that I can start getting snappy with everyone around me, you know? So, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's instant. It's like, "Rrr." My husband knows me well enough to know to just bring me food at that point. He doesn't ask me what I want. He doesn't anything. He literally will just come force feed me because honestly, it's just a physical
Yeah.
need that needs to be met. Either I need to sleep or I need to eat or both, and that has
I,
solved a lot of issues.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I say it to clients. I try and do it myself, and that's how. I mean, I get up between 4:30 and 5:30 because I've got clients all over the world. So my first clients of the day might be 5 a.m. I don't have a problem getting up at 4:30 a.m. because it gives me structure and routine, which is everything. Especially if you've got like chaotic belief systems, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So and I'm more aware now. So if I've had like 8, 9, 10 clients in a day, I'm mentally drained. I know that I'm more likely to be not in a great mood. I've got nothing left, and I'm going to
Yeah.
react there. So I'm more mindful of it there. And it's this
Yes.
Okay, also, have you slept? So I know that I don't have the luxury, usually I'm falling asleep anyway. I don't have the luxury of going to bed late and then getting up early. I will pay the price for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also you need to eat. And then suddenly you know, it is what it is. You have to accept it. But if you're consistent, then you've got a structured routine. And as you know, it makes such a difference.
It really does. It really does because, I mean, biophysically, so many things affect your nervous system and the ability for it to regulate. So,
Yeah.
if I can help myself with just some simple routines, shoot, why not? Because again, understanding why it made it so much better. It was like, okay, I know what happens, and now I understand that I really do have more control than I thought I did. And I think before I really operated from this place of trying to use the finite amount of self-control and discipline that we receive within ourselves from chemicals on a daily basis. Mine was gone by early in the morning because I had even less than most people. And so it was just a lot of shamey stuff like, Melissa, you know better, you know better, you know better, you know better. Whereas now the shift is, what do I need right now? Shoot, like I'm losing the plot here. What do I need? And like I even just talked to a client about this the other day where they caught themselves getting escalated and they were just telling themselves like, don't do this, da da da. And I was like, no, like you didn't do anything wrong, but I would encourage next time for the first thing to shift and be like, oh, what's coming up? What do I need? Because be again, that's a part of being very present and mindful that is very important to me because if I operate off my subconscious at all, even as much as I've expanded my consciousness, my subconscious is still what it is. And yes, I'm still working on reprogramming it and will be every day for the rest of my life. But if I am operating from that place, more often than not, you're going to get the worst version of me. So I
Yeah.
just try to be very conscious.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And if you got to the acceptance stage where you'd be like, I'm going to be working on myself forever, but the plus side is it's a step by step, there's improvements along the way. Have you got to that stage?
Yeah, like I kind of have started even changing my language around this for myself. I kind of triggered someone saying this one day, but I think you'll understand what I mean. I feel healed. I feel like those wounds no longer have the control over me, whatever. At this point in my life, I'm working on continuing to grow and evolve
Hmm.
as a human and
Yeah.
to never be stagnant, but I don't feel like I'm quote unquote working on myself anymore. I feel like
No?
I am who I've always been, which is a student of life. Like I have literally always wanted to know more, be more. Like I'm very curious, I'm very open. And so yeah, like I want to expand my spiritual practices. I want to expand my emotional hygiene. Things like that to continue getting the best out of this life, not to fix
Yeah.
myself. And so yeah, I think really the biggest place of acceptance that I got is when I said, hey, you know what? I think I'm actually just supposed to love myself and have unconditional positive regard for myself no matter
Yeah.
what, and accept that, like, maybe I'm gonna be kind of bitchy for the rest of my life sometimes. And that's fine. Like, my husband is, if he doesn't appreciate that about me, those are his choices to make. Like, I don't have to sit and shame myself at all. Like, I have to just be accountable to myself. And I don't think accountable means perfect. I think it means I'm a
No.
human. I'm having a real human experience and I'm never going to be perfect. And I think
Yeah.
somewhere in the back of my mind, I used to think that there would be a day I was going to be perfect, that I wasn't going to make these mistakes anymore. Very
Yeah.
childlike, I think. And yeah, I feel really good about where I'm at and the fact that it's okay to make mistakes. Like even
Yeah.
if I make hundreds of them every single day,
As
or
we do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, even the kinds that I would have just really hated myself for, yelling at my kid, cussing at my kid, whatever. Like, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that stuff's gonna happen. It is. And I can just look at and go, how did we get there? Like, I don't need to be mad at them, me, hate myself, them. I just go, ooh, how did I do that? And what would be better next time? And then we just move forward. That's just every day of my life. But I mean, I think I'm just more interested now in being the best human that I can be and getting the most out of this life.
Yeah. It's exactly the same sentiments as myself, with all the things that I went through in my life and been through and the mistakes, the bad choices. And you get to a point where you've worked on yourself, you go, like, life's short, it's over in a flash. No matter how long you live, you never know how long you got. Let's make the most of it. Let's enjoy it. Surround yourself, do good. All the things that you already know and you should do, and just make the most of the things that you can do there as well. I love the way that you talk about things. I love your. It's almost like what enthusiasm for what you've got to work on. That's the way it comes across, and I
Yeah.
think people that listen to you, whether it's on a podcast or if it's like clients, will just get a lot of energy and feel inspired there as well.
Thank
Melissa, it's
you.
it's been absolutely amazing coming on. I've loved talking to you. It's flown by. It's gone too quick, but I appreciate your time. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time with you.
Thank you.